Vikings and the Broncos. The Broncos win at home 21-20. They end the Vikings winning streak, which was the longest in the NFL. The Broncos take over the longest winning streak in the NFL. They're now on a 4-game win streak. They're 5-5. They have forced 12 turnovers in the last 3 games. 12 turnovers in the last 3 games for a Miami, or not a Miami Dolphins team, a team that let the Miami Dolphins put up 70 on them. I'll have a couple of ways of how the defense breaks down for you later in the game. But just to know that this team started off horrible. I said Sean Payton wasn't going to last until Thanksgiving because it just wasn't a good product he was putting on the field. Russell Wilson still kind of looked like the Russ from last year. He's completely changed from that. The defense is coming around. And I said it on the last show. Sean Payton has figured out Russell Wilson, and now they have won 4 games in a row. They're 5-5 in the playoffs, and they've got some real wiggle room here, knowing that Indianapolis is the only team above them with the same record, and Buffalo, Pittsburgh, and Houston are the 3 teams above them that only have 1 more win. We knew the AFC was going to be tight. We knew that there were going to be teams that got their hearts broken when the playoffs came around, or even if they played very well through the year, kind of just going back to the AFC seeding in the playoffs, they weren't going to be able to make it, and the Broncos could be in that. But I think with the way they're playing now, they're definitely going to have a case to win this. And I just want to go on record and say this too. People talking about, oh, Russ isn't washed anymore. First of all, he was never washed. One bad season with a very bad surrounding in terms of head coach, and just everything was new with the team. That's not going to be, terms for being washed. Russell Wilson now 19 touchdowns, 4 interceptions on the year, very high completion percentage, very high passer rating, and knowing that he's back at that top 10 quarterback level. I just told y'all my top 10 quarterbacks on the last show. Russell Wilson isn't having to look like the old Russ, though. And that's what's throwing a lot of people off. A lot of people don't see him making those crazy throws every game, being that vintage Russell Wilson, working super off script. He's still capable of it. But what I see right now out of Russell Wilson with Sean Payton, call me crazy, but I witnessed it in New Orleans, and I'm damn near seeing the same thing with an amazing quarterback in Russ. He is almost treating Russell Wilson like he treated Drew Brees in his last few years in New Orleans. And stay with me here. The short passes, easy stuff over the middle, knowing that he's a legendary player that can read the field well, knowing that he's won a Super Bowl before, knowing that he can run an offense, be very dynamic, but he's not going to ask him to do a lot. You see a lot of those characteristics in Drew Brees as well. If you even want to go with the fact that they're shorter quarterbacks. Of course, Russ is more mobile, but knowing that Sean Payton is not asking Russ to do a lot. He didn't ask Drew to do a lot in his last few years. Now, it was because Drew had a very shot arm, but Sean Payton understands that Russell Wilson can only make 2 or 3, or not can only might have to make 2 or 3 big plays a game to still take them to the promised land of winning that football game. He doesn't have to have him playing hero ball like he did with Pete Carroll in Seattle. And it's good that Sean Payton realizes that, because it allows that energy to flow on into other aspects of the game and into other players. And at the end of the day, hero ball can make everybody nervous. And it's not what people are used to seeing. So it's going to keep people from saying that Russ is playing good, Russ is back, Sean Payton has fixed it. No, he has. It looks different, and he's keeping it simple for Russell Wilson. I see a lot of comparisons from how he ran the Saints in the last few years with Drew Brees to how he's running it right now with Russ. I think we could see it later in the season, in the postseason, maybe even next year. The training wheels come off. He's kind of back to that, vintage Seattle Russ, but still not as many 50-50 balls or risk it plays. We know Sean Payton likes to be like that, but he's also been, dogged a little bit for being conservative in big time games. But let's focus on this Denver defense, who almost had a second interception on Josh Dobbs in this game. And this defense is really clicking since giving up 70 points to Miami. The defense sealed the final drive in this game to win it, and they were smothering Josh Dobbs multiple times and really just on his ass kind of all night. Russ with another big game. He had a nice play when he picked up the blitz on 1st and 10 with 42 seconds to go in the second quarter. He had a nice pass to Adam Troutman. Now, they were 2 for 12 on 3rd down, and they were 1 for 5 in the red zone. But when they needed Russell Wilson the most to step up and deliver the touchdown pass, which was already one drop by Jerry Jeudy, Russell Wilson stepped up, delivered it to Cortland Sutton. He gave his guy a chance to go up and make a play with 1:03 to go, 15-yard touchdown. You might not like the throw, but Russ has pulled those off his whole career. And again, this is where people aren't going to realize that Russ is clicking at a high level. It just looks different. He's got a different brand on it. It's kind of like when you go to Target or you go to Ross and you buy the shoes that are pretty much like the Nikes or they're pretty much like the Converse or the Adidas. They're just not $75, $130, $145, but they're still comfortable. They still do the same thing and they still damn near look the same. That is what you're getting right now with Russell Wilson. And you might not like the 5 field goals in a row for Denver, kind of showing that lack of offense in this game, knowing the weapons they have at their disposal. But again, Jerry Jeudy did drop a touchdown pass, which was a dot from Russell Wilson in the end zone. They forced 3 turnovers with only 9 points off of the 3 field goals to show for it. Now, they do score off every turnover, but each of those being a field goal. Cortland Sutton in back-to-back weeks with just great catches, man. I mean, Russ gives his guy chances to make plays, and when they do, they deliver. Russell Wilson now has 38 game-winning drives and 30 fourth-quarter comebacks, both tied for the most in the league since 2012, the span of Russell Wilson's career when he was drafted by Seattle, of course, tied with Matthew Stafford. This is the Broncos' first 4 game winning streak since 2016, the first season that came after they won Super Bowl 50 in Peyton Manning's last year. They've allowed 17 points per game since week 7. During their winning streak, the Pittsburgh Steelers are the only other team that have allowed the same amount of points as them. So they're tied with Pittsburgh for the fewest points allowed in the league in that stretch of their winning streak. And you see they were weeks 1 through 6, Denver gave up 33 points per game. In their win streak, they've given up 68 points per game. 68 total points in that 4 game win streak. That's 2 points less than the entire 70 burger they led up in week 3 to Miami. And you see a player that's really breaking out for Denver right now, Jaquan McMillan. He's really been fantastic since taking over the slot role early in October. He had an interception and a fumble recovery in this game. He's a second-year corner, 3 PBUs on the year, 5 tackles behind the line of scrimmage, so 5 tackle for losses, 2 interceptions, 2 fumble recoveries, and 1 forced fumble this season, just since coming in early October. So Jaquan McMillan's playing himself into a contract, playing himself into another option for this Denver team, who we know has or had some of the best secondary players and still has a Patrick Surtain out there. We know they had a Justin Simmons at one time, a couple of other safeties. Matter of fact, is before I get roasted by everybody, is Justin Simmons still there? Yes, he is. Justin Simmons is actually still out there, so they still have the presence of him as well. Kareem Jackson's got to clean up his dirty hits as well. We see he just pops Josh Dobbs right under the chin, which did have a fumble that was forced in the game. But Jaquan McMillan, just a playmaking DB right now. He's been a huge part of the defensive turnaround that's been in Denver. Also, the Broncos allowed 175 rushing yards on the ground to the third worst rushing team in the NFL, which is the Minnesota Vikings. After 3 straight games of rushing for 85 plus yards, the Broncos, the run game just disappeared in this game. 15 carries, I believe, for 46 total yards. Fred, last night's game was okay. Yeah, Super Bowl rematch, though. You know what I mean? We're actually going to get into that game here soon. I think the Lions versus Dallas will be a good one coming up. Very possible. The Lions are a very solid football team. And I mean, with them being the second best team in the league in my book, man, it's exciting to see them play the way that they are, especially that offense. I mean, Jared Goff is just so comfortable. What can you say about the elite level of play that he's given us right now? And I know it's not a whole lot about the Vikings in this one. Really, I wanted to focus on Denver in this game because I think they are the bigger story coming out of this one. Now, the Vikings play calling, did kind of confuse me here. A TJ Hawkinson under the center snap, and then a pitch to Josh Dobbs, who gets popped, has to go into the blue tent. And then he also fumbles as well. But I got to give respect to that first touchdown pass from Josh Dobbs to, I think it was Josh Oliver. Yes, the tight end. Just very slick moves there. And then the touchdown run, very fearless from Josh Dobbs. We know that he's a dual threat with his legs. But, the Vikings played a lot of conservative zone defense, which allowed a veteran in Russell Wilson to pick them apart. 77% completion, 259 yards, 1 touchdown, 107 passer rating. The Vikings won time of possession by 10 minutes and lost this football game. Now, what you can take away from that, got shit done when you needed to, really. Losing time of possession usually does, I wouldn't even say usually equates to losing the game, but the more time you hold the football, the more time the offense ball in their hands, more times than not, you're going to be in a position to win the football game. But you guys get in the chat in the comments as you have already. Let me know what you feel about the Lions and Bears review so far, Vikings and Broncos recap. You got to give it up to the Denver Broncos, man. Defense has turned it around. They're in the mix of the AFC playoffs. Sean Payton has figured out Russell Wilson and the Broncos. The Broncos offense does need to click at a higher level for sure, because this is another tough one they escaped with. We know the last one against the Bills, they escaped with 12 men on the field. The last one against the Chiefs, Sky Moore drops a touchdown pass. And then the one before that, they're barely beating the Packers, who are not a good football team. But hey, Thanksgiving's here. Broncos are 500. Sean Payton's got it clicking, and I said it in my preseason predictions. I can see the Broncos going to the divisional round here.